Okay, here I am again with a little bit of an update on our Ripple Energy scheme. Now we're in winter. I did a video back in October, and so yeah, 3 months later, November, December, into January, about 3 months later, I thought I'd do another little update. We've now been getting savings from Ripple Energy for just over 4 months. So here's an opportunity to see how it performs in the winter. And I think I was a bit disappointed when I first shared stats back in October, because it didn't look like actually the savings were going to be as lucrative as I'd hoped. And that, by the way, lucrative is the wrong word. I've only bought a small amount of investment in Ripple Energy. But then I was hopeful that winter might be windier and therefore savings might increase. So how's it got on? Before we get there, let's start with some context to begin with. So Ripple Energy allows people to join what we call a cooperative that funds renewable energy. So hundreds, if not thousands of members pooling resources to build a wind turbine or a set of wind turbines or a solar farm. I've invested a little bit of money. I'll go into that in a bit, but on a monthly basis spread over several years. And so we've now started receiving some savings from our electricity bill as the first project has come online. And that's the first project of 3 that we've invested in. So let's just jump into the dashboard and I'll just talk you through what we've had so far. Okay, so here's the Ripple Energy dashboard. First of all, some context. What do we have generating already and what are we going to have coming online in the future? So we've invested in 3 of the Ripple Energy projects at Kirkhill, then Derrellwater, and then Whitelaw Bray. Kirkhill is now generating. We got 343 watts of that one. Derrellwater looks like it's going to start generating later this year. That's just under 350 watts worth of generation. And then Whitelaw Bray looks like it might be having some trouble. So that may never come into being. But if we did, that's 650 watts of generation. So each one of those is expected to generate a certain amount per year. Kirkhill, the one that's already generating, is expected to generate just under 1,100 kilowatt hours of electricity. And the total investment over those 3 projects is just over £2,000 that we've paid monthly over several years. So it's been, not breaking the bank for us to do that. But Kirkhill, the one I'll focus on today, we put in just under £650 for what it generates. I think that we use just under 6,000 kilowatt hours of electricity for all our stuff at home, including the heat pump. We may well get an EV soon, so we may increase that electrical consumption. But my expected annual generation from those 3 projects is just over 3,000 kilowatt hours. The current savings from Kirkhill is just over 6 pence per kilowatt hour of generation. So they anticipate that we should be getting around £70 a year based on the current savings rate. It may, long-term average may be a lower savings rate. And the other 2 of Whitelaw Bray and Derrellwater will save different amounts because of the different construction costs and the different costs that they'd have to run over the time. Where are these things? So Kirkhill is just southwest of Ayr. I've been on holiday near there before, so I've probably driven past this site. I've not been to it since it's been constructed. Whitelaw Bray, north of Lockerbie, south of Edinburgh. Yeah, maybe one day driving on the M74 we'll be able to see it out of the window. Maybe we'll go visit, I'm not sure. And the Derrellwater is far southwest of England, west of Exeter. My sister lives just near Taunton, so maybe one day we get to visit that one too. Okay, so how's it been performing? I last did a video middle of October, and I think you could probably hear from my voice in that video that I wasn't that impressed with the savings so far. And I think I was probably expecting savings to get better as we got into winter. So we've now had the rest of October, November, December, and the start of January that I can report on. So let's go to October. I think I was recording around the middle of October, but overall in October we generated just over 90 kilowatt hours. Of that 1,100 or 1080 that we're expected to get over the whole year, that should average 92 kilowatt hours on each month. So October looks like it was an average month, and some of the days in October we're getting nearly 7 kilowatt hours of electricity. October, because that's when we started heating, we probably started using more electricity as well. And you can see that some days, we're getting maybe a quarter of our electricity from this wind turbine, which is really cool. But yeah, we used nearly 500 kilowatt hours of electricity in October, and we generated 93. Because of the savings rate back then, we only saved around £3. So yeah, this isn't adding up yet. And yeah, back then I was probably a little bit disappointed. Did November get any better? Well, the quick answer is no. We had what we kind of call, or what lots of kind of renewable energy doubters call the Dunkelflaut, but yeah, it's kind of a German term used in the industry, which is known as dark doldrums. So it's kind of the German word for dark doldrums. So when it's still in the doldrums and when it's dark, there's not much sunshine. So November actually was really, really poor for wind generation, particularly the first 3 weeks. And I did a video a little bit about Dunkelflaut and what that might mean for the kind of net zero challenge going forward. And I'll link that below or up here somewhere. But yeah, for a lot of the time, the wind turbine that we contributed to wasn't really generating anything throughout November. The back end of November, it started to do a bit better. But if we're expecting 90 kilowatt hours on average for each month, this at 68 kilowatt hours, and was a little bit low, and that's probably fairly disappointing. There were some days where it peaked at over 6 kilowatt hours of generation from our 340 watts, but yeah, it's not really registering for much of this month, except for at the very end. I wonder if it was warm at the end of November, warm and a little bit more windy. So yeah, generating over half of our electricity use that day, and yeah, almost 100% of our electricity use in that day. I'm looking forward to a windy day in the summer where we don't use much electricity and it generates more than we use. That will be a cool day. Anyway, okay, so November. In November we had some stormy weather. I think we had some named storms. Was it Storm Dara? So maybe this is when the wind turbine is really starting to get going. And you know what? That's exactly what we saw. So if it was 70 kilowatt hours in November, we generated almost double that in December. There was a couple of days of almost no generation, but then a few days of over 8 kilowatt hours of electricity, including New Year's Eve. So that month, yeah, generating 135 kilowatt hours of electricity, savings of £4.30. That's really starting to make a difference. Yeah, in December it's cooler. We have a heat pump, so we use quite a lot of electricity. We use 733 in that month. But you know what? 135 kilowatt hours of electricity generated from wind turbine that's serving us almost directly. Not really, anyway. That's serving us is pretty good. It's pretty good. That's probably a fifth of our energy. Yeah, 18% of our energy that month coming from 340 watts in a wind turbine on the west coast of Scotland, which is cool, including, yeah, that day, I think we'd gone to my mother-in-law's on that day, so I think we turned the heating off whilst we were away. But yeah, 7.44 kilowatt hours of generation. We used less than 10 kilowatt hours, so almost 3/4 of that day. So it's really great to see, yeah, the system really starting to work, and actually the variability of wind is frustrating when you're potentially getting savings from it. And in that video, on the Dunkelflaut video, I talked through about how we might respond to that nationally when we have much bigger wind and solar capacity and hopefully much less fossil fuel capacity, but we'll see. And then the start of December, I'm recording this on Friday the 10th. So the 1st of January was okay generation, but not great. And then actually, I've not seen much reports of this so far, but I think it must have been pretty still in this first third of December. We've not generated much on the west coast of Scotland, and only 15 kilowatt hours so far. If that continues for the whole month, it'll only be around 50 kilowatt hours from our wind turbine. So I'm expecting and I'm hoping that we'll have some windier weather in the next few weeks. We shall see. We're in this really quite cold snap at the moment. The news potentially saying that there'll be -20 around the UK, even more than the November Dunkelflaut. It feels like this would be a really difficult challenge if we were reliant on wind turbines around the country to power heat pumps and electric vehicles. This is a week where it's a challenge. So yeah, watch my other video. Just let's think through how we might manage that going forward, and what role battery storage, shifting demand, and variable tariffs would have on all that kind of stuff. So anyway, we'll see. So that's my last 3 months over the back end of autumn. Yeah, this is a fun page. So this is what it's doing live. That 340 watts of my wind turbine, it's currently generating 43 watts. So almost just kind of 15% of its capacity. It means that the wind's probably not that powerful. Does look like it's going to get a little bit windier tomorrow. We'll see. Quite enjoy going on the carbon intensity page, but there's lots of websites that will do this for you. It's given us advice to say, actually, try not to use electricity during this time because that's the highest emissions. Maybe try and use it in the morning instead, which is one of the reasons why Octopus has variable tariffs that have that 4 till 7 p.m. peak every day. And then this is the forecast of the CO2 intensity coming forward. Overnight, it looks like we've got moderate emissions, and it goes up during the day, and that's because it's not really going to be that windy. But yeah, 241 grams of CO2 per kilowatt hour is way less than half of what it was 15 years ago, but is one of the high emissions days that we have at the moment. So we might expect to see on average 180 grams of CO2 per kilowatt hour this year, and that's really, really reduced from the above 500, above 600 grams of CO2 per kilowatt hour that we had back in the early 2010s. So just the final thing I could share is what the kind of plans are from Ripple as to when those second 2 projects that I've invested in are gonna launch. Yeah, the wind turbine ones actually seem to take quite a long time to get in place, and so we're expecting winter in 2 years' time to start producing power, when actually we started investing in spring of last year. So yeah, almost a 3-year development period. Maybe that seems quick for a big wind turbine project. It feels like we're waiting quite a long time to start seeing savings. The Darrow Water project looks like it could be generating within just over 2 years. There was a bit of a delay on that, and they've pushed back the energisation bit to some point in spring. But we may be getting solar power from southwest England in the summer this year, which will be really nice. It'll be really nice to see Kirkhill and Darrow Water operating together. So Kirkhill maybe windier in the winter, generating a bit for us. Darrow Water solar farm obviously generating much more in the summer. It could be nice to kind of match them and see how they perform together. So I hope all that was helpful context. I guess, a couple of things to add. It's brilliant for us that the winter does seem to be windier because we use that much more electricity in the winter because we heat our homes with a heat pump powered by electricity. And if the proportion of savings is skewed that way so that we get windy winters and we can heat, then that's actually really good. It's really going to help when our costs are highest. The second project that we've got, as I mentioned, Darrow Water, comes online in the summer. Again, we've not bought a huge amount of power there. We've just kind of dabbled with it a little bit. And so that would help us spread the generation. And we are looking at buying a second-hand EV soon. So our electricity usage may change, and it might be that Ripple savings can really help us going forward. And then finally, some context as to what those kind of like 4 to 6 pence worth of saving gives us compared to our costs. Over this last 7 months or so, our costs have been around 20 pence per kilowatt hour. We're now on Octopus Cozy rather than Octopus Agile because the Agile costs were really high. But Octopus Cozy, the cost varies from kind of like 11, 12 pence at certain times of the day, around 25 pence at others, and then up to above about 35 pence on for that peak between 4 and 7. So taking that 4 to 6 pence off those costs, it's about a quarter of the cost that we would have expected to pay. So that's really positive, and for that almost 600 kilowatt hours, that's helping us reduce our costs to live with a heat pump and to live just more generally. As more of our generation comes online, you can start to see what the impacts that a Ripple cooperative membership would have on making both heat pumps and electric vehicles and life in general a bit cheaper to run. I guess one final point to make is that even though I might have been a bit disappointed in the last video, there was a few of you commented about the return on investment or the rate of return. Finance stuff is a dark art to me, but some people were saying actually that what you've got so far is a pretty good return on investment. So if you are into that world and you know much more than I do about how to calculate that kind of world, then it could be interesting for you to see what our savings are compared to what our investment has been. So just to confirm, £19.04 of savings so far in 7 months. And for this scheme itself, we invested £642. So £19 in 7 months could be £33 in 12 months. And so a simple payback would be that 643 divided by £33 would be paying back our investment in 19 years. And the key thing here is that Ripple Energy is going to keep giving us bill savings for the foreseeable future. And that will be great for us as we electrify everything. Thanks for watching and getting this far. Do get in touch if you've got any questions. And yeah, watch out for videos coming for the rest of this month.